Okay, so welcome everyone to our STC Market Week event. This is the first one for Holland Sherry. We're going to be talking a little bit about collaboration with Courtney Bishop. Courtney Bishop is a longtime designer based in one of my favorite parts of the world in South Carolina and Charleston area. Does a lot of work in the Low Country and Kiowa, which is just really special to me. If you don't already follow her, you can follow her at Courtney Bishop Design on Instagram. There's tons of great inspiration all the time. And Courtney launched her first line with us, Hardwood House, in, was that 2020 or 2019, Courtney? I don't even remember.
It was launched in 2019 in
Okay.
March in London. I remember it specifically because we can't travel anymore, and I was all over the place that year.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a great collection. I know there's more to come that maybe you can get into.
Yeah.
I remember seeing it on the boards for many years in Kristen Freydenberg, our creative director's office in New York. I know it takes a long time to develop a collection. And I hope we can talk a little bit about, how that process works with Holland and Sherry and how it worked for you. Generally speaking, I'll just say from Holland and Sherry's perspective, for people watching, we have a lot of collaboration lines, but Courtney's kind of a great example because it's one where we really made, some of the fabrics at our mill and, came up with some completely custom designs there with our capabilities and then filled out the line with things from partner mills. So it really was, a great example of taking, a client relationship like we already had with you and going into making product. So I'd love if you would just start telling us, a little bit about the Hardwood collection, how it came to be, the process, etc. Share some of the fabrics. I'll jump in. But I'll let you take it away, Courtney, and thanks so much for
Absolutely. It's such a fun story to tell. It really, it was so serendipitous and magical from beginning to current times. So I'm happy and excited to tell you guys, those of you who are interested in textiles or just interested in learning more about the collection. I'm just always in awe of how this all came together, specifically with a brand like Holland and Sherry, as you all know, who know the quality of their product and their customer service. It was a dream come true. I could not have asked for a better partner. And I remember specifically as I was starting the collection and designing it, and not knowing how the heck it was going to come to fruition or who would possibly, help me get to the level of determination and also to give me the confidence to move forward with what we were doing. I remember thinking, man, starting to see these patterns coming together, these drawings that we had and the woven materials together. I remember saying, God, Holland Sherry would be so amazing if that could only happen. And, things happen for a reason. And Brian Dicker was kind enough to come to my studio many years ago. I think it was 2017. He was here thanking his design clients and wanting to meet them personally, which is always part of Holland and Sherry and who they are. And Brian walked into the studio and we were, going to go through some of his fabrics, and he commented on some of my antique rugs. And he said, man, these are beautiful rugs. Would you ever consider designing some rugs with Holland and Sherry? And I'm telling you, like fireworks and light bulbs and everything went off in my head. The girls were all in the studio watching this go down. And I said, no, Brian, maybe one day, but I'm really interested in a textile collection. And the way that he just encouraged me in that second and said, hell yeah, let's talk about it. We'd love to see what your ideas may be. Why don't you meet me at the Dewberry tonight and we'll talk further about it. So I did that, of course. I drove straight from the studio directly to the Dewberry down the street. And we sat in their lobby and talked about what it would take for us to collaborate and how that partnership might work. And I just never let my foot off the gas from that point forward, knowing what an opportunity it would be and has been to work with him and work with the Holland and Sherry team. And from there, the conversations began. That people started to travel to New York and meet with Kristen. And those of you who know Kristen, she's a genius. She's so well educated and has such an incredible background in textiles. And to know that she was in my court and how compatible we were, with our ideas. She was definitely so encouraging and let me just talk and get through some of the initial ideas that I had specifically, and then helped with Brian's help and another woman, Tamara, who was working at the time. They saw a collection packet that we had put together. It took me about a year to get my thoughts on paper and drawings together and color palettes and materials that I was kind of bringing and showing that I was excited about. And they were kind enough to, wait for that presentation to come together, because I really wanted to get it right the first time. And then from that point forward, we had a landing point. We had a working document so we could pass ideas back and forth. And in the course of the next year, I think that's 2018, they began sharing qualities with me. And as you all know, again, Holland Sherry has these incredible mills and partnerships with fabric houses all over the world. And to be able to collaborate with these textile mills in Italy and in Germany and in London and of course, in America, in the States and South America, I just never dreamed. So I'm so grateful, as you can probably tell in my voice. But also, I mean, this is where we are. We are now a year into our first collection, the Cardinal Collection, which if I have some time, I'll explain the meaning of the Cardinal Collection. And also we're almost finished with the design and development of the second collection, which is the Kalos Collection. And we'll show a few samples before today's interview is over.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think that's one thing that a lot of designers who want to get into product and the product side of things, it is a dream, I think, for a lot of people. I know we say a lot of times that, you are your own best client when you're designing. And I like specifically and I know the story about Cardinal specifically, but I like that you have a lot of references and you find design inspiration from your life, not just necessarily from things that other people have done, but things that are really personal to you. And I think that's a great place to start a collection with. And I think it'd be great if you could show us some of the fabrics that came out of that. I see some of them behind you.
Yes.
I have some of my favorites. So if you can be sure to talk about mesh and snug, I will love you more than I already do. But yeah, I'd love to see if you could share some of them and what they're useful for, how you use them in your projects, just so people can get a sense. We have all of them, by the way, in the showroom. So for anybody who wants samples, please do feel free to shoot me an email or put your email in the chat, and I'll take it down, and we can follow up with you about getting you any samples of the fabrics that Courtney's going to talk about right now, because these are all available in all Holland Sherry showrooms around the world.
Yes. So I have 54 SKUs in this first collection. Many of them, for me, I'm all about texture. That's why it's a woven collection, not a printed collection. That's why finding the partnership with Holland Sherry or somebody like Holland Sherry was so important, because the weavers, the people who actually weave the fabrics together, are something that I had no idea how to find. I knew if I spent a year, traveling in Mexico or possibly in Italy, I could find people, but I also run a design business. So Holland Sherry was the reason why this woven collection came to life for me. So I'm going to grab some of my favorites, and then in a minute, I'm going to share my website with you, my personal website for Harwood House, that will help you all see a little bit more about the story of the Cardinal Collection. I'm going to set this light down because it's a little bright down here. Okay. So we started the collection with what I call foundational fabrics, basic textures that I use on all my upholstery. Essentially, I always like to use 2 or 3 thread colors on my upholstery. And of course, using a pattern or a print is important to me as well. But using a textural 2 or 3 thread color fabric on a large sofa. And I tend to do a lot of large sofas in bohemian, more relaxed living rooms here on the coast. But I very rarely use a solid linen or a solid cotton on my sofas. I feel like they need a little bit more texture than that, but they also need depth in color, and they need a little bit more durability for all those mothers and kids who, you know, like to have food and drinks and watch movies together. So what we do is we started with 2 or 3 colors in each fabric. Everything here has at least 2 thread colors, if not more. And I call these my basic fabrics. So this is nubby, and the nubby comes in 3 colors. And what you'll see is we started the collection with a general palette, with the cardinal being the inspiration. The cardinal is that cardinal red. I love red colors coming back with a force. So we're not using as many, well, I'm using neutrals all the time, but you're seeing them layered with a lot more color now than ever before. Gone are all just gray and white. Now it's a lot about using all kinds of color in design, and collaborating and sharing all kinds of fabrics, and taking larger risks. So what this does is allow you to start your foundation of upholstery with a little bit more depth. So I've got nubby here in 3 different colorways, or may just have the 2 here, but it does come in 3. And this is a rustic, a black, and a charcoal. And the whole collection has this palette of earth tones. I love black. I wear black all the time. This is more of a masculine, handsome collection. A lot of the classic fabrics that I always loved, I interpreted into somewhat like a menswear collection. I interpreted into the Cardinal Collection. I'll explain a little bit more of that. My father was a really sharp dresser, and I was always wearing a 3-piece suit and an ascot. He was just, you know, he's the symbol of the Cardinal for me. And this was kind of my dedication, my ode to him, interpreting these fabrics and his suits into fabrics that I would use in design. So it's very organic, but it's also rich and rustic as well. All the fabrics you see on the wall can be used together, which is important for every collection that we do. I am a big lover of just mixing pattern on pattern on pattern. And that is why the basics are so important to me. And that nubby was my foundation. Then we did a stripe, because everybody loves a stripe, right? Vertically or horizontally. We loved the idea of having the nubbies as the foundation, but also using the stripes as possible pillows or accents on a headboard. We did it in black, we did it in gray, we did it in red, and we have a cream. And all of these are incredible fabrics. The weight of them, the textural weight of them, the way that they were woven so artisanally. If you see the stripe, it's very organic. The threading colors, there's 2 colors in each thread. But for me, this was incredible weight for heavy pillows that you don't have to back on top of the sofa fabrics, but also on headboards, on bedding, on chairs, structural chairs, on loose back chairs. It was important for me to have a classic stripe. I love stripes. Also comes in, I think I showed you the black. And then, as Harrison mentioned, snug, which is 2 colors, but it's very, very, it looks like a complete neutral. It's a gray and a cream yarn. And snug is one of the fabrics that we use on everything. We use it on sofas all the time. We use it on headboards. We use it on bedding. Snug is coming out in 4 more colorways in the next collection because it's been so successful. It's got that really luxurious textural quality to it, but it also has depth, and that's really important for all the fabrics that we created. Another fabric that Harrison and I've been talking about that is one of my favorites. I use these shears in almost every home design. I actually just used this in a hotel that we're opening in a couple weeks as the drapery fabric. But sheer in what colorway do we call this? Cream sheer. Thank you. So this is cream sheer mesh. And this is charcoal mesh. And both of them look like almost like mosquito netting, but with a little bit more depth to them. And we came out with 2 colorways. We're coming out with 3 more in the next collection that I'm super excited to share. But incredible bedroom drapery. It's just so lovely. And now in the times where designers are using and taking wallpaper back into consideration. I think we lost the wallpaper for a little while, but it is coming back with a force. And what I like to do is use a really wild, fun pattern on a wallpaper in a master bedroom or in a living room or a guest bedroom, and then use cream sheer as the drapery. It creates a little bit more serene environment when you do have the wallpaper on the walls. So I highly suggest looking into any kind of sheer for that application. So those two are incredible qualities. They've got, this almost textural netting look to them. And so I think they really work well in warmer and cooler humidities, because you can put a blackout behind it and it creates a bigger volume. And if you don't want to do the blackout and you just want to put them in the living room, then you just line it in a natural cream linen. It's just one of my favorite things to do. And then the other fabrics are
while you're grabbing that, I'm just going to add a couple of things about both of those fabrics that I just see at the showroom level and when people interact with them. A lot of people have a boucle out, and we have our own boucle Brunswick, which is a great 100% wool boucle. It's one of our best-selling fabrics. The thing I love about Snug, and the thing I love also about mesh, which you just noted, is that they're good in climates with completely different humidity levels. And I think a lot of times Snug has linen in it. And a lot of boucles are either, even ours, 100% wool, which is very soft, or we see a lot of the bigger, super loopy boucles that can be beautiful, but tough to use on a sofa, like you say, the kids, people are going to be on. So, where you're working in the Low Country, but also I think for people who are in LA or in other places, sometimes a wool boucle or a super loopy boucle is just not, it's too warm in a way and Snug is great for, not that you can't use it in the Pacific Northwest or wherever, but it's great, I think, for boucle, and people really respond to it in those warmer climates because it still has all those qualities and those depths of the boucle, but the linen really does cool it down and make it just a little bit more casual. And the same thing that you brought up with the mesh, it almost has, I feel like mesh, it has almost like this painterly quality because it's just so organic, and many of our shears are so they're beautiful, of course, and many of them, it's similarity between Holland Sherry and your line, having multiple colors. Nothing's really a solid. That's very much like our ethos too, in our core collection, and I think something that works well and makes it easy for our fabrics to play with yours well. But I do love that you pointed that out about both mesh and about Snug, because it is something that's nice for people coming into Holland and Sherry, I think, to see those options for the warmer climates. Whereas some people think of wool and they think, just for cooler,
Right. And, something that we try to do, and another reason why the website that Holland and Sherry shows all the fabrics, of course, but then the Harwood House website you can go to specifically, and it'll show the application of each fabric in different settings. So you really can see. I have Snug on my home sofa in my living room. It holds up beautifully. It still feels very structured. You don't see that big dip in the center of the sofa. It's got a really great firmness to it. So you don't mush down the fabric too much. And that's part of the linen, I think, that Holland and Sherry and the quality control that they had. So I'm going to move on, Harrison, to the reason, I'm not drawn to larger prints. I'm not as drawn to larger prints as smaller prints. And I think that when you have smaller prints and you use tonal coloring, then you're able to layer more. You're really able to use all of these prints in one room together. So the rest of the collection grows a little bit in scale, but never into large scale. I save that for the rug. I save that for the artwork. I really like for this to be a complete composition of what the homeowner collects, right? This is the backdrop to what the homeowner's unique individuality is for their home and their accessories and their artwork. And I do tend to go a little bit larger in rugs, and that's specifically, essentially where I'm drawn to a larger print, or let's just say a wild color pattern. And this is what's really engulfing the room and creating that opportunity for those areas to pop. So one of my all-time favorites is polka. I feel like this collection has a really cool edge to it. And polka is one of those widespread polka dots that you can use anywhere. I also love the rustic coloring. So this is black and cream, but it comes off, it's called rustic polka for a reason, because it comes off almost with that faded feel. This is incredible on chairs or on a sofa or on a settee. It's also great on headboards and bedding. I've used it on drapery and it's amazing. All the polkas are reversible. So if you're really going for that neutral look, this is an awesome option to do a little bit of a print on, say, creams or grays. But polka is one of my faves for sure. We did a rustic red because I know some people, some of the reds are a little bold, but this rustic red is pretty amazing. We've done a combination of drapery where we did this side on the drapery and we did the cream side on the valance. We're in Charleston. We still have all that, formal downtown living. And I was able to use this in a very traditional home just to give it a little bit of edge. And then we did it, of course, in the black. And I think that's the only 3 colors we did in polka, right? Maybe one more. And then, of course, Houndstooth plaid, classic menswear suit. I always asked Brian if he could make me a suit in each one of the fabrics because I love pantsuits. If I could just fly to London and have, the tailor make them for me. That hasn't happened yet. But this is Houndstooth plaid. Love, again, another classic print with a little rock and roll edge. It's a little bit bigger than most of the Houndstooth plaids I've seen in the past. This is just classic, but also edgy in the same tone. I use the cream colorway on drapery all the time. Again, perfect weight for drapery here. And then as we get a little larger, we've got Pinwheel, which is kind of like true rock and roll. I feel like Rod Stewart would have worn this suit. If I ever get mine, I will. But this is Pinwheel in 3 different colorways. If you're really wanting to make a statement out of a sofa, this is the way to go. I love black. We've used them on gorgeous Kelly Wearstler chairs with brass legs. I've used them on headboards all the time. And again, if you just wanted to go with a neutral palette and you're not into the blacks, all of these cream fabrics really work great together with Snug being your base, and then Pinwheel and Houndstooth plaid. I wish I had more arms layered on top of each other. These 3 look beautiful. And Harrison, we've got the Folklore and the Cardinal fun patterns left. I'll grab them real quick. I'm sure we're running out of time, but.
Yeah, I think we can review those in 5 minutes or so, and then take a look at the website. And then if there's any questions, we'll get those answered too.
Okay. So I live in the South. I love music. Folklore is a way for me to express an artistry. I think, again, with the Cardinal Collection, it is a nod to my history. It's a nod to the people in my life that have inspired me. And folklore is that kind of interpretation. It's just a fun way to bring all these elements together and tell the full story for my collection. So we did folklore in black, we did it in red, we did it in cream. And it's just a fun, playful way to take your classics and then not be so serious. It's a fun, humorous nod, and also a lovely way. I've had many, many friends use folklore in their nurseries in cream, and I find that just lovely. And then I did the Cardinal, what I love about Cardinal in 3 colors is that it actually is a stripe. So when it comes onto your sofa or your chair, it actually has a nice vertical element to it. And these are also in rustic. They're all 3 the rustic kind of linen with the black thread. So nothing is too shockingly contrasting. Everything really looks lovely together. We've got a few more up there, fine line, and then cross stitch plaid in 2 colorways. So there's 56 SKUs in this collection. There's 67 SKUs in the next collection, and many of these fabrics will be interpreted in different colors, specifically mesh. Of course, I mentioned snug. And yeah, and Nubby Stripe is coming out in 2 more colors. So we're real excited about that. I might need a little help sharing screen, but I decided to do the website so everybody can kind of go along the ride with me. I always knew from the very beginning that this collection was going to be aimed towards family and taking the inspiration from people in my life that have really inspired me to be who I am today, and also artisanally driven travels that I have experienced with people in my life that have passed, or the people in my life that are still alive. And those memories have stuck with me and made me who I am. So the Cardinal Collection just became the iconic first collection in my life that shared the story of my father. And the website that we designed, we love so much. And I think maybe personally for me, it's a nice thing to have. But if you want to enjoy the website, there's 3 components on the landing page. The textiles, of course, are the first. The second is each collection will be listed in the second section. And then I'm going to start with the story, the third section. And this is kind of how it all began. A lot of doodling. Again, fashion and music always play a big role in my life. I didn't know if I went into the music business right out of college. Then I couldn't decide between fashion and interior design when I was starting my career around 2000. And I realized that, as my mother was an interior designer, that I had a little bit more support in this area. And so you can see there's a lot of fashion inspiration. Again, as I mentioned, this is, to me, is also something you could see as in a menswear Holland and Sherry tailored showroom in London, in Savile Row. So, but for me, it was just kind of edging that out and a little bit more rock and roll. And then this is really a old book that inspired the box, the Cardinal box, which is the color red. I saw this at an art show in Columbia, and I decided that each collection was going to have its own iconic symbol, and that symbol was going to represent what the collection held. And you see the photo of my father, who passed away 3 months before Brian walked in the door. And it all just came together so serendipitously. And this is, again, the way that he would have really created a collection for himself. This really inspired me to start this whole journey. And these are the postcards that he used to send us from all of his travels. And again, just a little bit of an explanation of who we are as a design firm, how we roll, and it's just fun. And I'm glad to share it with you all, a little bit of the history of how it started. I used to, believe it or not, go to the Holland and Sherry tailor with my father when we lived in London. So everything's full circle. And then we'll see how quickly the Cardinal Collection is just the first, and it explains a little bit about loved ones are woven into our lives. What do you love and admire about them? What do they leave behind? And the Cardinal Collection symbolizes the family connection and how we carry their spirit from one generation to the next. And then if you go to the textiles, you'll see each fabric has a square photo. And then if you click onto one, you'll see the colorways, and then you'll see a setting. And we're adding to this all the time. So we'll be updating the website. If you want to see it in different compositions, as soon as we have the photography, we'll add those photos. So you have 2 locations to see the fabrics, the Holland and Sherry website and also Harwood House. And it's harwood-house.com. And that is the website. Stop share.
That is great, Courtney. I love that. I love those images. Mm-hmm. It is incredibly serendipitous to even hear you explain it, to see all the connections between our brands, and it's wonderful that they that came to fruition, and the Cardinal Collection is going to come to fruition in another soon-to-be launched collection. Yes. So I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about that, a little bit about what the inspiration was and the connection was with that one. I know we don't want to get ahead of the launch, but a little sneak preview, I think, would be good if you don't mind.
Yes, I could not be more excited. You know, if you do one collection and you like the way that everybody worked together, I think the second collection just becomes that much more exciting. Of course, with Sylvia and with Kristen and with you and all the support from Holland and Sherry, of course, Brian. We are Eric's in there working away, trying to get the second collection launched for us. And he's been amazing. But I've also come from a family of artists, creative artists, and my grandmother and my yaya and my papu, they were Greek. And she was a dressmaker and my mother was an interior designer. So I have this Greek heritage that I hold very near and dear. Yes, I do have all those funny, big, fat Greek wedding stories, but I did get to travel, fortunately, back to Greece summer before last with my entire family. My kids were able to come with me and my mother. We went back to several islands from our heritage. And, you know, the minute that I landed, I was like, this has to be it. This has to be where we're going. And you would think immediately it would be, you know, your typical Greek key or your blue and white, you know, Mykonos setting, but it's actually not. It's very different. It will be a little sexier, a little bit more mysterious. It's called the Kalos Collection. And I have just a few of the samples here. Again, everything low contrast, everything several colors of thread. But this is one that we really love. This is a textural stripe. Kate, remind me what the name is specifically. We're still naming. Stripe sheer. So easy. We did stripe sheer again because we were so successful with mesh that I also wanted a linear element to it. So drapery. We did this in 7 colorways because I could not stop. We did it in olive, we did it in caramel, we did it in white, we did it in gray, we did it in almost like a purpley gray. The collection colors were inspired by more or less the olive tree. Again, another symbolic relationship was, you know, you're passing the olive branch. And I really wanted to I use green in all the design right now that I'm working on. I love green for its environmental feel from interiors to exteriors. So just to, even though these aren't green, there's a palette, very low contrast palette that shows the sheer in 2 different colors here in the cream and in the gold. And then here's the snug that we did again in this lovely neutral peach color. And then there's a gray that we're coming out with too, because I know everybody loves a little soft gray. And then the fun starts again, like the Cardinal Collection. We went into a little Greek folklore, and these are so awesome because the prints are really small. Again, you don't even really know there's a print on them, but there's all of the Greek mythology symbols of the owl and the horse and the snake and the lightning bolt. And they come in some beautiful color combinations. Again, this is mixing this peach color with this olive green. And then this is more of a peach and a cream. Little sneak peek here. And then we got a little wilder with the folklore, and we did a quilted folklore here, which shows you kind of the larger symbols. I really wanted to create fabrics that we can use for matelassés. There's not enough blankets out there in the world that I am finding, and I wanted that matelassé quality, but I wanted it updated and modern. So these are going to be incredible for, again, Dutch Euro shams, 2 big king shams, a quilted matelassé at the foot of the bed, a little bit of fun always. I never take myself too seriously. And then I'll show you one more. This is Yaya. This is one of my favorite color combinations of little bit sexier, total departure from the Cardinal, but again, really fun colorways to work with. And so this will be called the Kalos Collection, an ode to my Greek Yaya, of course, my mother, and you'll see it soon.
And are those, I know you're saying sexier, I'm wondering if it's a little hard to tell over the screen. I actually haven't seen them in person myself. Cool. Is it, are you using silk in there?
So a lot of the fabrics are more linen and wool combinations.
Okay.
But there's almost a metallic to some of the threads, the qualities that make it feel a little silk. We were hesitant to use silk just for the value, you know, in order to have to clean it, etc. But we are investigating a few, and I'm hoping that we get there. But these are a little more difficult.
Absolutely. I mean, I think you've done a great job. I feel like, you know, I don't know. We are definitely running out of time. I wonder if you have any parting words, any fun tidbits, life mantra, anything you'd share. Just let us know a little bit more about you or something that just sort of drives your everyday thing, maybe related to design or not.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I always do. I love talking about design, you know. I mean, this is my jam. I would just recommend, and if anybody really is considering or also just wanting to consider branching out and doing something like this, you know, go for it because it does happen. You just got to put your foot out there and you got to give it a chance, and things do happen. And I also would advise, you know, personally, just go bold with the design. Just take risks, don't match. You know, I'm sure lots of you are, you know, well into your design careers, but my personal, I think excitement comes with just trying things that I didn't know, you know, I wasn't quite used to, and then seeing them come to fruition and how exciting that is that it was something that I was a little nervous about, but we did it anyway and it turned out great. So this whole, you know, this whole experience with the fabric collection is purely that. And so we're just really happy to be a part of it. So excited to speak with your design center because I've been waiting for you guys. You know, when we launched the collection, you guys were still under construction. Yep. So now we'll be coming to see you soon. I look forward to that.
We do too. And I really appreciate all your time today, Courtney. It was amazing to see your studio and the collection, to see you as always. And we can't wait to see you here in Seattle.
Yeah, we'll be there soon. Whenever you invite us, we'll come.
Okay, sounds good, Courtney.
Thanks.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.